However, if you test the information, they found out that subliminal messages was 50% stronger without the person being aware. So this is why we have a presentation that usually takes 2 days, but you get now is a quick run-through of a little part of it. And what does that have to do with negotiation? That's because we look at human interaction, which is far greater than negotiations. It's also where the results are. If you give a training like this, people will often say, yes, but you don't give me a direct order, you don't give me a direct direction. No, we don't. What we have is an enormous buffet with new tools, ideas that you can work with. But you have to pick what fits with your character. Nobody can negotiate in a way that is out of character for the person. Exercise of priming. Now, priming is sending subliminal messages. We all know that, I think. When you send subliminal messages, you always think of the experiment of James Ficker in 1957. Nobody knows his name. Maybe some of you do. Most people remember the experiment because it changed the world as we know it. When we negotiate, there are a few things that we say is a given. And that's the position of your opponent. Then this is your position. When you negotiate, you get an obstruction. An obstruction is what we say a given. But with NegoLogic, we don't accept any givens. And he does that by looking at options instead of position, trying to find common ground, and using non-verbal communication. I work as a negotiation consultant. If somebody calls me with a problem, it's not my brilliant mind that helps him. It is his definition that allows me to do so. So we are going to spend, relatively, if you would be here for 2 days, we will spend a lot of time on the defining of the problem. This seems to be an unbreakable connection. Because if I give you what you want, you're going to be satisfied. If I give you a little bit less, you're going to be less satisfied. And you see what I mean with an unbreakable connection? The two are waist linked. Nothing can help. If we're talking about sending messages, we should look at how the thought process works. And what is known about that is that we get millions of impulses, much more than we can actually use. And then we grab a few things out. Now, of course, you would say these are things that we like. But it could also be things that we fear, things that disgust us. You know how you can't look away from a car accident? That when we negotiate, we have something that we tell our opponent orally. We have a hidden agenda for him. Things we don't want him to know. But there's a third one. There's an actual one that we might not be aware of. A carrot, money, usually, could also be contract. Depends on you buying or selling. Another tool, and another tool. What you use is, this is what it can buy, this is what it can do. It's a threatening device. You're not supposed to hit each other with a hammer during the negotiation, no. But you can threaten it. If you do this, I will do that. And what is the last one for? Whatever you hear, whatever you think out of an email, whatever you seem to think about your opponent, is something you hold on to and you can't let go. These preconceived notions are very, very hard to shake. You're there, you can see things. Whatever you see is more important than what you heard. Whatever you think you hear on the telephone, whatever it is in the email, is not as important as the confirmed notions that you get later on. So every time you move around the circle, you're going to see that it's more important and your picture becomes completely. You have to stop and realize that preconceived notions will always send you in the wrong direction. Now we are at kicking the habit. And we are kicking a habit of accepting values without a basis. This is not something that most negotiators are crazy about, to hear that we accept values without a basis, but we are all doing it every day of the year. What in fact is happening is that we accept prices based on the presentation. Based on presentation, but also on how other people react. If there are 10 people in front of you buying a 9 Air Max, then you're going to say, well, the price must be right. That we have, and that is the sixth sense that absolutely robots don't have. And here is the reason we like the robot attitude among businessmen. And that is because emotions. If we show emotions when we negotiate, it is always working against us. If I'm going to be very nervous because I do a deal with you, then you know it will not work because you feel my nervousness and say, okay, I can take advantage. And comparing is tracing your footsteps. What happened the last time that this happened to you? This is not thinking. This is not thinking. We just call it thinking, but it's not. Many people who negotiate say, the last time this happened, it worked out for me, so I'm doing it again. It is a just effects mistake. The idea that everybody who does business makes decisions cool and collected like a robot. They're not influenced by human interaction. This is not true. Luckily for me, luckily for most of you, because if that was true, no negotiator would have a job. There's a price when you treat somebody well. When you say, take it or leave it, there's a price to be paid. In other words, if he accepts your offer, it's only because he was willing to pay more. Otherwise, the interaction becomes more important. Also, from your own point of view, negotiations are a basis where you can find out exactly how far your opponent is wishing to go. How far does he want to go? And if you cut that off, you will never know how far he wants to go. Because you would think that this looks very, very dangerous, that this guy can't move around, and emotions are all over the place. A lot of people, when they negotiate, they mix and match. They're negotiating and suddenly they ask a question, which they don't know the answer for. Because there's nothing against asking a question. But basically, when you negotiate, you are as a lawyer doing trial. You ask a question if you know the answer. There is a separate information stage necessary. You have to be different than everybody else when you negotiate. Because if you're the same as everybody else, you're going to get the same deal as everybody else. You don't want that. It's very important to offer a deal that is firm, no ifs and buts. Again, the information stage, you could say, yeah, but the house has to be tested first. Make sure you test it before you negotiate. You do everything before. When you negotiate, you don't do anything. Non-verbal communication is a lot stronger than anything verbal. And there's a very good reason for that. Because your opponent is opposing you. He's sitting across from you, and he wants the opposite of you. Just think of the first slide I showed you. Because they are opposing you, he's not going to listen to what you say. The funny thing is, the only one listening to you is you. Unbelievable. There is no higher level than with a minister of finance. And on this level, this kind of idiocy happens 3 times in a row. It's hard to believe, but it's really true. If I ask him, do you have funds? And he would say, unlimited. By the way, if anyone ever tells you they have unlimited funds, you can be damn sure he has no money at all. People with unlimited funds would never utter these words. Never. And why did I do that? I said, you don't know that what you say isn't true. But I do. I know more about your words than you know about yours. These are people who are not speaking to you. They feel doubt inside, and they're speaking to themselves. Red flagging is an extremely strong way to find out what is happening. And remember what I told you, these are impulses that he is neglecting. Otherwise you don't use these words. He neglects them, but they leave a little trail, they bubble up, and suddenly they're in his brain, and he doesn't know why he says that he's going to order the book. That is because there's extreme doubt in his mind that he is. It is a washing machine, it can fly, it makes your coffee, and it is the best sex you ever had. Because he's a salesman, and he thinks that he's doing a good job. And his boss thinks he has heart for the company, and he's doing a great job. In fact, this person will only sell if you see no other option. If he has a product that nobody else has, if somebody else is selling service, we go somewhere else. Now, what's interesting about that is, you cannot lose what you never have. This seems very daring. This is not something that is very popular among salesmen or negotiators. Because this seems like you admit that there is a limit, but it's a limit that the person knows to be true. I say something that is reasonable to you, although it's obvious, your brain is not going to separate that it's obvious or not. Your brain is going to say, wow, this is an honest guy. Take a choice. Whenever you take the choice away, which apparently most people think is very, very good for a negotiator, to take choices away, in fact, it is not. The illusion of a choice is going to be picked up just as well as a real choice.